welcome to House Rule, a podcast about role-playing. I'm Ed.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Ebo.
My name's Lee. No one likes Jeff. All right. Today we're going to be talking about a variety of subjects. We have Ebo doing the news. I'll be leading a first read segment a little bit later. That's a segment where we read through a book and then give you our snap judgment opinions on it. And then after that, we'll be doing a roundtable discussion about music and video games led by our good friend Jeff.
See, someone likes me.
I was only saying that to be nice. First up, we got the news.
No news.
All right. So this is going to be our first read segment. Today we're going to be reading the Player's Handbook 3. Well, I mean, we've already looked at it for a little while, and we're going to be giving you our opinions on it.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I've read the least of this book, but I consider myself somehow uniquely qualified to talk about it.
That is
because
true.
I've run a couple of sessions of first-level characters who are almost all playing classes from this book. So, yes, I am uniquely qualified to tell you how abusive it is to me.
There's a Minotaur on the cover. Also, there's a female Minotaur picture somewhere in the book.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Gith on the cover. That's not a Minotaur.
Oh.
It doesn't have horns or fur or anything.
Lady Minotaur?
That actually does bring us to a good point. They introduced several new races, or one or two new races in the book, and then also Minotaurs and Gith-Zerai?
Yeah, they did something.
I can't tell which one of the...
Gith-Zerai and
Gith-Zerai.
Gith-Yankai, I think. I didn't
Is
look at the races.
Gith-Yankai in there too? Or no?
Nope. Just one category of
Just Zerai.
Githian
Wait, which
races.
one was the cool one where they could do the fly around once an encounter?
Yeah.
That's Gith-Yankai.
They're the cool ones.
They'll be back, don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
and,
looking at the picture
Wildman.
of Minotaurs right now, and I cannot tell which one is a man and which one is a woman.
The
They're both
bottom
men.
one.
The bottom one's a woman. You can tell.
She's got the boobies
scales.
skill. Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's got really
The
big
Shardmind,
pecs.
I think the Shardmind is an entirely new race, which is obviously geared towards psionics because they're made out of crystal parts. And then the Wilden are
Hairy,
hairy.
Wolverine-ish folks.
Yeah, and they might not be
Thorns
new.
on
It
them.
sounds familiar, but I'm not really sure.
I think they're
I looked at the races the least because
you were going to play a human anyway.
I was going to play human anyway. Yes, I always play human.
Well, doesn't it kind of seem like they're bringing out some races, basically the Power Source X race?
It does, and I'm not sure that I like that a lot. But at the same time, I can sort of see where they're coming from, where people want to play a race that fits with their power source really well. But I think they should have just brought Elan back. I thought they were pretty cool in the first place.
Yeah, I think more of what it is that you have races that are tailored to the classes in the book. Because you saw that with Player's Handbook 2, also, like, the Devas were very well suited to play Avengers or Invokers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they were made for it. And I think that, I don't know what I don't know what Minotaurs specifically are made for, I guess.
Everything.
But yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Dave was kind of like that too. Dave was maybe the start of that. Like, Deva was a divine race, really, pretty obviously. And then it looks like we have a psionic and a primal race here.
But at the same time, it seems more like the psionic and primal races here are more pointed. Like the Devas they're sort of like they're like the opposite of the Tieflings. They're the Tieflings are devil-y sort of thing. And since they didn't bring back the Aasimar, they brought Devas instead, which a lot of people wanted. And same with Minotaurs. I mean, I know at least two people in our play group wanted to play a Minotaur at one point or another. And I think one person actually played two Minotaurs.
Well, one thing that they did do was they, for the ability scores, they, instead of giving them 2 stats, they gave them one ability plus the option of choosing one of 2 abilities.
Yeah, and it
So
makes them a
instead
little bit more flexible.
Yeah. So now Minotaurs are now wise. Maybe.
Yeah.
They're not ever going to be
I don't know.
nice. They're going to be strong and tough, and that's about it, I think.
I guess that's one of the other reasons why they decided to do 4 instead of the normal 6.
I don't know for sure. I mean, it's possible, too, that they just don't want to fill the book up too full of new
Good stuff for
Well,
us.
obviously, if you look at the was it Shardmind, and then the primal one. I mean, they're maybe running out of the classic races. I mean, anything. Those two are obviously quite right out of their butts.
Although I do think they're both fairly cool.
Yeah.
I sincerely prefer when they revamp or when they add extra depth to races that already exist, like in the Monster Manual, like they did with Minotaurs and Gazera. The new ones are cool enough, but some of them are just like completely conjured from nothing, and I want some more of the ones that like you can play, but they don't have any feats support or anything.
Like
Bullywug.
They could have just let you play a multiplayer for a Science race, and I would have been okay with that.
Ooh.
Now,
Well-
as a side note, they did also include the racial paragon paths that they included in the Player's Handbook 2.
I did not see that.
And they included the racial paragon paths for all of the new races, which was something I liked. I still like the racial paragon paths. I still think the human racial paragon path is one of the coolest paragon paths ever. And the ones in here are pretty cool.
Mind Flayer would have a really cool racial paragon path.
Involving eating brains,
Yes.
I would definitely play
They
that.
probably shouldn't do that, but boy, I wish they would.
So anyway, they introduced a bunch of new classes and also a new power source in this book. They introduced, I guess it's not really a new power source. I mean, psionics have been around for ages, but they introduced 4 psionic classes. That would be the Scion, the Ardent, the Monk, and the Battle Mind.
Yeah.
And then they have a a divine leader called a rune priest and a primal controller called a seeker who uses a bow, which I thought was a missed opportunity in the first place. So I'm glad that has happened now. So yeah, what does everyone think about? We'll start with the new power source. Like, I know I had talked to somebody earlier that Monk seems like it was sort of shoehorned into psionics a little bit.
Especially because they didn't give them psionic power points.
Yeah, they're the only psionic class in here that doesn't use power points.
Well, I think it was. I think they were actually pretty upfront about how they just did kind of shoehorn it because it didn't really fit anywhere else.
Sort of a man without a home.
They talked on the D&D website about the reason they put Monk in psionics is because they didn't feel like Ki was a strong enough power source to stand on its own.
They eventually admitted that the key power source was just the Asian flavor power source.
Yes, I mean, it was like, if you wanted to make a samurai, you could just make a fighter with...
A fighter or a paladin or any number of other
They
things.
have to know by now that if there's an Asian power source book that comes out, nerds will buy it in droves. It's a missed opportunity, I think.
That's true. I mean, if we're going on the money-making paradigm that Wizards has been rolling with lately, that would be, you would think.
I mean, they could have made
Right
a
in
book
their alley.
that's like Oriental Adventures 4th edition
Well,
with Wu Jen and
that's
Shugenja, and they maybe still
more of a campaign setting, in my opinion, though.
Oh?
And it might still be happening. We know what the next campaign setting to come out is going to be, but there's at least one.
You never know. We at House Rule might have some insider information. We don't, but we might.
We probably don't.
If any of you has insider information and you're not telling me, I hate you all.
We want to be on the inside desperately. Okay, so
Definitely
let's get back to these power
probably
sources.
don't.
I thought that we were discussing this the other day, and Jeff brought up a point that I considered to be terrific because it was also kind of a play on words. But it was like, why aren't monks martial? What is more martial than practicing martial arts? And that resonated with me because it's just fist fighting, and I know that they're flavoring it like channeling your inner spiritual energy and making it psionic, but they could have just had it be strictly
I mean, they could have been just punch fighters.
fists
which I
and
would have been
elbows, and I don't even think that you wouldn't necessarily have to change them from using implements for their attacks. I think that it would still be...
okay. Speaking of which, I'm going to be running an Ong Bak themed game, and all of you have to play a monk.
I'm going to have a elbow specialization expertise.
Awesome.
That is Muay Thai.
Okay.
Supported. But no, I mean, like, overall, I really like the flavor and feel of the psionics. I think that away from the monk, the expenditure of PowerPoints is, going back to the 3.5 old school thing. And I like it.
What is that? I've played in 2 games with other people playing psionic characters, and I just keep playing like a fighter or a ranger or something. But you talk about spending your power points to make daily powers or something? How does that work?
Well, instead of getting encounter powers, you choose new at-will powers that replace your older ones, and you can augment those with power points, 1 or 2, or at higher levels, even more than that, to basically make them function like encounter powers or somewhere in between.
So Lee, you've always been the psionic guy in
Yep.
our group. Does it feel like psionics to you? Does it feel like the old school bank of power points?
I would like to say that it totally does, but at the same time, I've only played first level psionic characters, so it doesn't really count for much. But I don't know. I feel the flexibility, like the part where you can spend 1 power point or 2 power points on a power and get, that sort of middle ground between an at will and an encounter power. I like that. It adds a when I look at those powers, I'm like, wow, that's really specific, and I would never use that ability. But I've seen myself using them on a number of occasions. It's more flexibility than I gave it credit for when I originally looked at it, and I do like that. And I think at higher levels, it would definitely feel more like that, that unnecessarily large bank of power points and blowing them all in 2 turns sort of thing. I can see that happening.
Yep, but you really can't blow them all in 2 turns anymore.
I think at the highest levels, you'll have 17 power points, or 19 if you get 2 from your Paragon Path and 2 from your Epic Destiny. And you can blow all of those in 3 turns.
But they increase all of your...
They increase the costs. At higher levels, like the cost for power points, or the power point cost for powers in the Epic tiers, like 2 points for the first level of augmentation and 7 points for the second level of augmentation. So they still charge you quite a bit to get those encounter powers. It's always the same. I think the idea is that it's always the same percentage of your power points to get an encounter power out of your at-will powers. But
yeah,
it's definitely a unique system. I don't know if it's really hard for me to say at this point whether or not it seems underpowered or overpowered or anything like that.
Now, yeah, that seems weird. Can you choose not to upgrade to other ones and just kind of, stick with your lower level ones forever and have tons and tons of encounter powers, or is that...
No, when you get a new level of encounter power, you have to replace one of your old at-will ones.
Okay.
So you'll always have the same amount of at-wills and encounter powers, more or less, than as everyone else does. It's just your variety and flexibility is different.
Yeah, you get like 1 more step.
Yeah.
Instead of
you
the
get that level in
steps,
between,
I guess.
But at the same time, it's I don't know. It's just a little strange to me the way it looks at Epic and Paragon tier because the costs go up, and I didn't bother mathing any of this, but it looks like if you choose, like if you were to multiclass out of Psionics or multiclass into it, or if you were to hybrid, that you might be short on power points for some of your stuff, but it's really hard to say.
And my only experience with the Psionic classes so far is mainly I've been running like 2 levels worth of pretty low concept dungeon bashing game with a pair of psionic characters, and all I've noticed is I think the battle mind is very much feels like the sort of dangerous threat that a fighter generally is, and an ardent very much seems like a tactical warlord in terms of the like continuous bonuses to allies, penalties to enemies, that sort of like constant buffing sort of thing. I think that I would like it more if I was on your team, but yeah, no, I think that they're pretty cool. I don't have any experience with the augmentation though, because you guys do that without asking or telling me.
Well, when I mark
I
2
tell
guys...
Yeah, I assume that when you mark like everything around you that something's happening.
They just say stuff, but they're just cheating. They don't really keep track of their power
No,
points.
that's why I'm
definitely
spending
not.
2 power points every turn for like a 9-turn battle.
I've been
I've been doing that the entire time.
I mean, the game is so much more fun when the GM has no idea what's going on.
I agree.
All right, I guess
sorry.
Dragon dies.
They
Got him again.
moving away from the Psionics, they did also bring out, which I didn't see this coming. They had a new Divine and a new Primal class, and I first of all, I did not see a new primal controller coming. That was out of left field for me. And same with the divine leader. I didn't think it was necessary. And I think the feel of the Rune Priest is very similar to that of a cleric. Less healery, more damagey, but still, still divine leader.
Yeah, it's like the warlord version of the cleric.
Yeah, the warlord cleric. And I mean, they do more damage overall, I think, than a cleric. But I think they're very strange to me.
Yeah, I haven't really read them. I've been have the page open and I'm looking at it, and I just keep getting distracted by this picture of a dwarf with his face all painted and he's got a big hammer. It looks pretty cool. Makes me want to play a dwarf again.
That's basically what all of my dwarves look like.
Yeah.
Hammer, face paint, beard.
Yeah, this was a very dwarf-heavy book.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, are you calling dwarves fat?
Yes.
I think that every book
Fat
should be
and short.
heavy. But I think the Seeker is the primal controller, and we actually have in the game that Ed's running a Seeker and a Druid. We have too many controllers.
Joe was playing a Seeker, right?
Yeah.
We have a friend named Joe, and I guess he was playing a Seeker.
He really likes bows, and
it was cool. It was really cool.
I was actually surprised. He does a pretty significant. Okay, now I don't want to bash in controllers here, but I'm going to a little bit. He does more damage than any other controller I've ever seen, which I can get behind. But it doesn't seem like he has any area powers that are particularly worth noting.
The thing about that I've noticed about the Seeker, and you guys are going to have to call him on it if Joe's cheating because I'm not looking it up. But it seems like he's playing an elf who's a Seeker, and with a combination of elf and Seeker abilities, he's got a combination where if he misses someone, he can use Elven Accuracy to reroll it. And if he misses that, he has another ability that lets him make another attack on a different target, if he misses. So it's basically, he doesn't miss often. He is almost always hitting something on his turn.
Yeah, even though his attack bonus isn't that high.
Even if he's not doing big areas and really spectacular damage, he's doing a good amount of damage to something, and he rarely misses with it.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I like the idea of a Seeker that uses of a controller that uses a weapon. Of a controller that targets AC. That's fairly new. I don't know. I think they're the flavor of them seems really cool too.
Well, bow controller seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah, it does.
It's good they finally did.
Yeah, I before 4th edition ever came out and they were describing the class the classes, before they said what Ranger was, I was like, oh, Ranger will be a controller with a bow. That'd be awesome.
I also predicted that same thing.
And then they turned out to be a striker.
I thought for sure that a bow controller would be Martial, and I don't have a problem with it being primal. I think that they added a lot of good flavor to it, except that all of his powers involve shooting bugs at people.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Shooting bugs or spirits?
Shooting spiders or something onto you.
No, is there a martial controller?
There's not.
Okay. They're probably gonna not do that then.
You never know.
I'd like to see him do it.
They're
a martial
gonna
controller
run out
with a whip. That would be.
Oh no!
Oh, yeah. That's right. When we heard about Monk, we were all like, Monk, martial controller. Let's do this.
Well, we have predicted martial controller at least twice and been wrong both times.
Last year, martial controller.
There's power of positive thinking.
Let's call it. You heard it here first.
All right.
Martial controller.
We'll take bets on our website.
I was just gonna say, the Rune Priest, going way back to the Rune Priest.
Okay, way back.
Just looking at it, the thing I think that's interesting about it is they have a power keyword called runic, which runic powers are they basically allow you to pick one of two effects that then apply. I think it says until you enter a new rune state or until the end of the encounter. So even their at-will powers can their effects are generally
minor,
expendable. I think those ones specify until the end of your next turn. Mm-hmm. So, but they give you things that kind of stick around, like bonuses to defenses or attack rolls,
like short-term stances.
So a little bit more of an offensive leader than a cleric.
So is it kind of like the psionic PowerPoint thing, but then they gave it to a divine class? Or
no, it really doesn't have anything to do with points. It's just extra options for kicker effects that add on to the back.
Kicker's a good way to think of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who play Magic.
Anyway, so yeah,
those of you who
Rune Priest, Seeker are both pretty cool. Yep. I was gonna break in and call Jeff on something he said earlier. about, I usually just play a fighter, he said, and I made air quotes. These people are all playing Scions. I usually just play something. You have not played a straight class in, I think the last 3 characters I've seen you make have all been hybrid characters, even before the book came out.
Which thankfully
You've
they're
been
printed in this book now. So
Yeah.
Jeff has a handy dandy reference
Not
guide.
having to go into Ed's really cold office and look up hybrid rules on his computer has been a blast. That is
Yes.
my favorite thing about Player's Handbook 3 so far. When I say I only play a 5, I haven't generally gone into the new power sources much, but in the new book I've been playing this
Or the
hybrid
old ones.
Ranger Rogue, and it's really cool. It's a lot of fun. It's I have this. I took the Beastmaster Ranger, so it's like I can flank and sneak attack, and if I can't get in melee, use my Ranger abilities, and it's hybrid's been fun. I think hybrid Sword Mage is still broken. I didn't look it up. Is it still?
I did not check, but yeah, you made a hybrid Sword Mage Ranger who was a dwarf?
Yep.
Yes.
It
That
was
worked
incredible.
out depressingly well.
Yes.
You just hid in a little corner, continually marking the enemy, shooting them with arrows, and all of your friends were untouchable. Yeah, it is a little bit... I have not looked at the hybrid stuff very much since the material came out online.
And that was just a 3-man game.
Yep.
That was... Yeah, I mean...
That was
that
a really
Fun.
solid.
was
That
a
was like
very-
13th level.
a very robust combo for a small group.
I do like shamans, apparently.
Hybrid characters can go a long way, I think, to fill in gaps in your group. If you think like you had a striker, a leader, and a defender who was also a striker. So it was sort of, I don't know.
I just confirmed hybrid Sword Mage is still broken to hell.
I think I think my favorite thing about hybrid is that it allows you to make a more unique. Like a lot of people have said, like a lot of people in our group have said that a lot of the time you feel railroaded by the classes in D&D, and hybrid characters can go a long way to make you feel like you are instead on a several lane highway instead of a railroad where you have at least options and exits you can take.
Not that this is the
You are a
consideration
frog.
that most people are making, but hybrid classes give you the opportunity to fail.
Yep.
They give you a possibility that your character might not be at the very least good, but probably perfect.
They also give
Previously,
you
that was an option that you only had if you were Paragon multiclassing, where if you choose to Paragon multiclass, you're guaranteed to fail. So at least hybrid classes give people who want to Paragon multiclass a better option for playing 2 classes instead of 1.
as I found out last night, another option hybrid classes give you is the option to be surrounded by a semicircle of books to try to know what all your different powers are.
Yeah, I just realized the other day when I was coming over here to run that game that D&D is a hard game to bring with you these days.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, because everybody leaves all their books at my house, so I have to bring at least one copy of every book.
Well, we don't want to carry them.
No, I know,
You
but
just leave them at your house.
when we're not playing at my house, it's just like, ridiculous.
I bring my books over.
Yeah,
I leave all my books at Ed's house or at my
It's
house.
like
and I don't
50
move any of them.
pounds.
yeah, it is like, I have this little messenger bag, and I'm just like, I think I might have broken my neck. But anyway, yeah, it is a pretty...
So yeah, they
Classy.
one last thing they included that's completely new is they have something called skill powers, which are utility powers that you can take that simply replace utility powers of the appropriate level. I think the highest they go is 16, and you can take them based on whether or not you are trained in a skill.
You don't need a feat for these.
Nope, but you can take a feat to get a bonus one if you feel like it.
This is another thing that they previewed on the D&D Insider stuff, so sort of ready for it, but it's nice to see it in print in
I
a
wasn't ready for it. I don't
official
think
class. Wow, okay.
Not lately. Anyway.
Not lately, but this was a while ago. But anyway,
Well, thanks for making me feel dumb.
you're welcome.
Anyway, I think the skill powers are pretty cool. In general, the effects of the skill powers are not extremely potent.
They remind me a lot of skill tricks from the 3.5 Complete Scoundrel. They're just like, they're a little bit more robust than that, but they're like things that just let you, like acrobatics abilities that let you shift a small amount
Or
or
get out of a grab.
I don't know, a lot of the socially oriented skills like diplomacy and intimidate have unique not necessarily combative uses.
Die Hard has
Yes,
Intimidate or Endurance,
Yeah.
and it's fantastic.
Yeah, makes you unkillable for the majority of encounter. Or until somebody actually kills you, which is fine.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't stop you from dying. It just stops you from being unconscious, from being dying.
Which, of course, makes you a target.
It also
Because
makes you more likely to die.
Yeah,
in
because most
general.
enemies ignore you when you're
That's
out
how I'm
of town.
taking it.
Well,
Congratulations.
Die Hard should be called Death Wish. But yeah,
Oh,
the
yes.
skill powers function in a fairly basic manner, but I think they let the people who are trained in things like diplomacy or intimidate, etc. They let people who are trained in those skills, just simply replace a couple of their utility powers that they might not like so much, and feel like their skills have a stronger meaning on what their actual powers are, and I like that.
Now, when you have Die Hard on, do you still heal normally with from 0 up?
Hopefully.
Could you chintz that with regeneration or something?
No, not
No
really.
way.
And
That
I
would
will
be pretty chintzy.
not that we
That
need to
would be.
necessarily read the detailed description, but the effect ends if you are no longer dying.
Ah, there you go.
So you have to remain dying in order to enjoy the benefits of not dying.
Well, good job, 4th edition. Good job.
Good job.
You win this round.
So,
Yeah.
with that, I think we're going to move on to our roundtable discussion.
Today we're going to talk about music in role-playing games. And I guess to start that, one thing I've heard from looking at various forums and listening to other groups is it doesn't seem like a lot of other groups extensively use music in their role-playing games. I guess a little bit of background on our group, we tend to hail from like the Japanese video games, and like at least two of us, myself and a friend of ours, one of our main goals when running games was to run like our own Final Fantasies or something. So we brought in a lot of music into our games.
Mhm.
So yeah, well, what do you guys think about music in role-playing games?
I like using music in a role-playing game. Like, I think it can really tie a scene together. It can set a mood in a really great way. It can make it so you can't hear your players, which is really delightful sometimes. But like I don't know, it can bring out the intensity in things. Overall, I like when people use music well. I like using music in my games. I don't know. I mean, we've used music practically all the time. So like last night, we actually played a game where we didn't use any music, and everyone was confused by the stifling silence that overcame the room when no one was talking.
We actually got to a part where one of the other guys playing with us was talking to someone not playing, and he's like, "Play some music, anything."
Yeah, I think that we've kind of gotten used to it, and I am maybe the only voice of dissent here. Like, I don't want to say I don't like it. I do like it. I like when I'm playing to have the music. I don't know, feels good. I like when I'm running to hear music in the background, but I don't like planning music. I don't like listening to songs that I think might be good so that I can play something original that you guys will appreciate. It's like I should just be designing more monsters.
Well, I mean, that's
This
because
would
you
be
think
more
your
fun.
narrative is so strong. When, as we found out last night, when you don't have any music playing,
Okay.
we're all creeped out by the sound of your
I told
voice.
you that this game was low concept. That's your problem.
I guess on that point, one of the things that I found when I'm working on a game is that the music comes first sometimes. Like, I won't come up with an idea unless I hear, like, I'll download or buy or whatever, a new CD or some songs and stuff, and I'll listen to those, and I'll come up with, hey, that's a really cool mood, or that's a really cool sound, and I'll sort of get game ideas from just listening to the songs, and then I just use those songs.
This is actually a really an interesting point. I have, since I started running games and using music in games, found that it completely changed the way that I listen to music, for better or for worse, I'm not really sure, but when I listen to music, in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, I wonder if that would be good in a role-playing game. Any music I listen to, it doesn't even matter. I listened to a new Gorillaz CD lately, and I was like, I don't think I could use any of this in a role-playing game. And, I came to terms with it, but it's still, when I hear it, it's in the back of my head. I'm thinking about it.
That Chevelle CD you gave me, that would have some decent combat themes and stuff in there.
It definitely it butted up from we played like you said, we had several Final Fantasy soundtracks between us, and so we played a lot of those songs that had a distinctly fantasy or action theme. Then we developed, I think the first breakthrough in music was our mutual friend and gaming partner Sean, who we might have mentioned earlier. Anyway, he started playing Rage Against the Machine during his game, and it was just like something so different than what we had done before in a D&D game. This
It
was
was awesome.
back in AD&D
He's
times.
also the only person among us who will play songs, remember cues,
Oh gosh.
practice in front of a mirror. He doesn't do that anymore,
He
but he used to.
used
and
to
he
be
was awesome.
quite a director.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate that the scenes he contrived never survived the player characters, but he ended up expecting that. And he was fairly good at adapting it at any rate.
Yeah.
But it was just, now it's like more and more, there's no taboo. Like, you can play music with lyrics, you can play basically anything you want, and I don't want to say I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm just saying sometimes I think that the
I think a lot
musical
of the,
choices would benefit from a little more discretion.
I think part of it is that like it actually seems more appropriate. Like I don't know if anyone else does this. I tend to when I'm running an encounter or an area, like if I have a town and I have encounters planned in that town, or if I have a dungeon, I'll try to use music that feels similar to me, like thematically. And part of it is that I try to be, because I'm running a fantasy campaign or I'm running a different kind of game, I'll try to stray away from, in my fantasy game, using a lot of music with lyrics, using mostly mood-setting things, that sort of thing. If I'm running a modern game, like I'm running a game that has time travel related in it, and the players are in the 80s, so I was like, yeah, Huey Lewis, let's do this.
God.
And that was awesome for a
You and
while.
your Huey Lewis.
But I don't know, I try to stay thematically cohesive when I run my games, and I'm not really sure that anyone else bothers to do that I've noticed.
Well, I think
I know Jeff does.
one thing that I specifically don't do is assign specific songs to specific things. I mean, I have done it a little bit, particularly when I ran Mage the Awakening. There was a lot more important plot elements, so some elements would earn themselves their own songs. But I find that, I think when Jeff runs, he has like many things will have their own theme.
It's really a combination of the two.
So we'll feel certain things coming, like there are certain characters who I would not know are going to be in this scene, but then the music plays and I'm like, oh, no, here's what's going on, I can tell now. But I tend to just create like a CD or a playlist and just use that, and I'm like, I'll label the songs things like really good heroic fighting, or
Dramatic tension.
sinister tension, spooky mystery. And
That's a Scooby-Doo theme.
no,
It is. The Scooby-Doo thing.
yeah, kind
So I guess what I do is sort of a combination of the two of those. I have sort of these mood-based songs where I'll name like mood. The one I use a lot is Realizing the Situation. It's a
You
sort of
have a song named that?
Yes, I do. It's a sort of a thing that I play when you guys learn something. You're like, oh no, and then you got to figure out what to do.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being mind controlled now.
What song
Anyway.
is that?
I'll play for you next time.
Do you play it when you want us to learn something?
Do you think
No.
that it helps us discover
Do
something?
you ever preempt it when you know we're going to learn something?
Yeah, like just the start of a scene.
Damn.
But then I also have songs that are for specific characters or specific scenes. And as much as you say you don't really do it, reoccurring songs are really powerful, at least to me as a player. And I was picturing this battle song all last night that you always play in your game. It starts off with like this sort of rambunctious sort of orchestra, and it's really cool.
Mhm.
I don't know
you're
what
talking
song
about.
it is, but
I think I know what you're talking about, and yeah, I think I was planning on bringing up like music that we like to play, but I think it's probably something from Shadow of the Colossus soundtrack, is one of my favorite soundtracks used in game music. But we can touch more on that.
Yeah, our friend Sean, who we've already referenced a couple times, and I can see a couple more references coming up. He is a huge fan of character and place themes, and like he has made a ridiculously huge and detailed world, which I'm fairly sure that almost every place in it has a theme, or at least every chunk of places has a theme.
right.
And like it was really cool when somebody would when we'd be in contact with an NPC, and then all of a sudden, like, some crazy stuff would go down, and then Rage Against the Machine would start playing, and we'd be like, oh yeah, it's down now, and it was always like awesome for us, and Sean would go into this big giant spiel, and I don't know, it built a mood that I only really see in like movies, which I know is really what he was going for, that movie, video game, epic, cinematic feel, and that definitely would not have been possible without the use of music as much as he did. Like, he integrated it more than anyone else does.
Well, in that game, I also felt like the moments where the characters were really badass, it was just the music made it really just fly through perfectly.
Mhm.
Like there was that one song from was that PC game, that Total Annihilation,
Yep.
that he would
Yeah.
play. That was just so epic.
And
It was so cool.
That sounds
And
really
there are songs from his first game set in that world that was back in AD&D era that I still remember exactly what they stood for.
Yep.
Like, I mean, we had a song that he used that was just like traveling outside, and we heard it so much because we spent so much time bumping it places, and it was just like, I think I just dredged up that song the other day, and
he
I
spent
was
a
just
long
like,
time using the Conan soundtrack, both of them.
I just think games like that, that game in particular did a really good job of feeling like the only thing that game feels like is itself.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like the system it was run in. He didn't know really most of the rules in the system he was running in.
yes, that was kind of
And-
slapdash.
And so it was just, that game felt like that game, and it was so personal, and it just, I think the music helped that whole feel come out a lot.
Oh yeah, tons.
Definitely.
And I think that's also another really great way for the GM to, to involve, to get, like a more personal feeling into their game. Like they can, like you can describe scenes and everything as much as you want, but like if you add that other layer, like a mood that you want your players to feel aside from just describing something,
Yeah.
like you can really like push people in that direction in a subtle manner that it adds another layer of it, and I think that's really
I think
cool.
the best example I can think of that is something that Jeff will do in his games, where it's just Jeff and Sean both do it pretty efficiently when they want to. Is they'll play a song that enhances the feeling that you're supposed to be disturbed by something.
Mhm.
Like, there's granted a lot of violence in these games, but like when you hear a certain song that's just kind of, it makes you feel like something is twisted about what's going on, even if it isn't necessarily something violent. You're like more on edge. You want to like get to the bottom of it, and I don't know. There's like, one of the previous games you ran, there was an extended scene that took place on a space station, and it was like a deserted station, and the entire time you were playing this really creepy music, and so it was like every second I expected something to come and just take us by surprise, and I can only say I think it enhanced the sensation that it really didn't ever happen that way. It was just like the whole time we were expecting something more awful than what we were seeing.
And for that, we can thank the composer for Silent Hill.
Yeah,
Who really does just make the creepiest crap by an extremely wide margin. Although Sean did have the one song that he used from
Amityville Horror.
the Amityville
Oh,
Horror
gosh.
with the creepy laughing that none of us will ever forget. That's
yeah.
that's a noise that will
And
haunt
that
me
wasn't-
until the day I die. I'm sure of it.
I think when you mentioned subtlety, I think there are a lot of, like, I think enhancing the mood that's sort of already there is effective, but I think that the subtle uses are also effective too. Like, you can have maybe a conversation with an NPC that is either good or evil, but you're playing a song that's kind of opposite, and it
Mhm.
kind of keeps people guessing as to.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Sort of what's going on.
you had one NPC in a game who, every time we ever talked with her, you played this like really mysterious, mischievous music, and like it made all of us a little on edge every time we talked with her. And then she was only really ever a good guy until the very end of the game, and it always made all of our interactions with her seem sort of weirder than they probably even were.
It's like, oh, that person's kind of shifty.
Yeah.
You know?
And it helps, like, the nice thing about it is it lets you get across a feeling or an idea that you don't necessarily want to say with words, you know? Like, if somebody is shifty and you don't want to just come out and say, oh, this person's shifty, you can tell. Like, you know, you can play some subtle music and then they'll be shifty to the players.
And it's what you mentioned earlier about, how strong is your narrative. My narrative acting skills are nowhere near anything. So it's like if I can do anything without having to say it, that helps me a lot.
I think one thing that bears mentioning, and we've all been playing together for a long time. We've occasionally added or subtracted people from our gaming group for one reason or another, but for the most part, we're people who haven't played a lot outside of this group. And I think it bears noting that there are some people out there who don't share our opinions about music at all. Like, I've heard a lot of people talking in other podcasts and forum posts about just like they find music to be continually distracting in a game, or they have never really seen the point because it's too much work. And it's just something like I've never thought of it not really being there at all. Like, I can imagine running a game with no music because I occasionally do, but it's like I expect it to be there in some form or fashion.
Yeah, like whenever our friend Rory comes to town, he loves to play in games with music, but he never ever uses music in his games because he has no ear for a tune and he has no idea what fits in a given scene. So whenever he runs a game, it comes out seeming like, sort of like last night when Ed ran a game with no music in it. I'm like, where is the music that should be playing?
Well, he also asks us what music to play
That is true.
before his games start, which is the best.
Yeah. What sort of music should I play? I don't know. Just put on the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack and play the whole thing.
Do you want NPC is lying to you song, or maybe give me a hint here?
He wants NPC is lying song.
That's the only song he wants.
He knows that we know his NPC is lying. He's like, I don't need that. just give me
But
something.
yeah, I mean, I feel almost like I'm part of the minority. I don't know for sure. I haven't taken a poll of every gamer, which I've been meaning to do. But
hey, we could put a poll on our site.
Of every gamer?
Probably should.
That's a bold
Yes,
poll.
we will make every gamer required to answer our poll.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're listening to this and you're a gamer, you need to answer our poll. It's pretty much required of you now.
If you don't have the internet, you can write in to our mail address.
We don't have one of those.
Yes, we have.
We all live on the street and are podcasting this in a radio station that we hijacked.
Just
Like
write
that movie Airheads, if you've seen it.
house rule. Just write house rule in crayon on the letter.
They'll probably get it, like Santa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you could send it to Santa, and he'll forward it to us.
On Christmas. So
Only if we're nice.
Okay, Lord, this is the farthest afield we could possibly have gotten.
To bring us back onto track, what about actually forcing characters to think a certain way? Like, you walk into the room and then, I don't know, or Fortuna starts playing or something.
That would make
I did that the other
characters
day.
laugh, potentially.
I mean, I didn't do that with O Fortuna, but like, I had Jeff talking to an NPC, and if any of you have seen Shutter Island, the music that they play when they're approaching the actual island is extremely bold and spicy. And
It is.
I started playing that when Jeff walked into the room, and all of the players' eyes got a little wider, and I was like, yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah, without even really realizing it, I actually metagamed it right into play, because I was my character started trying to figure out what was so creepy. Like, what this guy was doing. He was so foreboding.
Is there a possibility that the meta game magic that this music creates could be a negative? Is it possible?
I don't know. So far, it's turned out pretty well, but I mean,
If that's what you're going for?
Yeah.
But
I think it's possible. I think if it's not what the GM's going for, then they might do irreparable damage. Like, they might have an NPC that they accidentally play the wrong song for, and the players never trust them again. Which might just be fine. But
I mean, we've never trusted you anyway, so if that ever happens, we'll never know. But I mean, like, Sean has done that before, where he meant to play a really serious song. He played some stupid song from some game, and we have never forgotten it or forgave him.
that was ActRaiser.
Yep, Actraiser
Oh,
music.
it was supposed to be some dramatic entry or something.
Yep,
Yeah.
and it was just Actraiser.
But it was hilarious enough that I think it was still worth it.
Well, I mean, it was worth it on our part. Like, Sean had a red face for basically the rest of the night.
But he knows in his heart that it was still worth it.
Yes, that's true. So I think what we've come away from that is even when you screw up, it can still be awesome as long as your players think it's hilarious.
I had that happen. I fell short on one of like a battle song the last time we played, and I ended up playing this song by Epica, and apparently off of their new CD they like to quote one of the former U.S. presidents, and that
yes.
played right at the end.
Yeah.
And
That was pretty nice.
I was a little
gnarly.
sad inside.
This battle brought to you by George W. Bush.
Actually, Jeff has done that on several occasions too, where there was a song that he played where it seems like one of those things, and I mean, I've done this, and we've all done this, where all you do is you listen to the beginning of the track, and you're like, yeah, nailed it.
Oh, yeah.
And exactly, a little bit later, the track turns into something completely different. Whereas this track that Jeff meant to play sounded creepy and a little foreboding, and then all of a sudden it was like, da 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 da, and I was like, where did that even come from?
I honestly have that track named as Mood, like, basically creepy, and I keep forgetting every session that halfway through the track it goes ba 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 ba.
I have a song that's just like that, except it's like it starts out really creepy, just kind of ambient, and then all of a sudden it picks up into this really heroic sort of romp, and you're like, I don't want the players to have hope in this scene. That's why I picked this song.
Because of that, what I've started to do is just listen to all of my music all the way through,
Naga.
just once, right before I
That's
play.
ridiculous.
Just so I have an idea. And
Preparing thoroughly.
Sean actually used to say that before he would run, he would always want to spend like 3 hours alone just practicing and listening to all the music so he can get into the mindset. And it's actually weird. He would use the music that he picked out for his game to prepare himself in the appropriate mindset to run the game, which is something the rest of us do not do.
We're adults now. We don't have no 3 hours.
I think this is a good way to segue into sort of, I guess, the last topic I wanted to make sure to bring up, which is which music is appropriate to use in a role-playing game. And what we were just talking about, music for movie soundtracks, oh man, can be all over the place. You can have songs where maybe half of the song works or whatnot like that.
Right.
But what types of media do you like to get your music from for your games?
Like video games is an obvious choice because video game soundtracks tend to be there just to evoke a specific mood. Like the tracks are maybe like 3.5 minutes long, saying like on average, but they're there to provide a musical backdrop to whatever's happening on the screen.
And a good addendum to that is a lot of movie soundtracks are like scored for a specific scene, so the ups and downs of what's happening on screen are indicated by the music, whereas a lot of video game soundtracks you'll get a huge number of songs that are just the song that's playing in this area, the song that's playing when you're fighting these guys, as opposed to like cues that you're going to have to be aware of that are going to be mucking it up.
So, like, I tend to use a lot of video game soundtrack music, and Sean tends to use a lot of movie soundtrack music because he likes to have those cues, and he likes to have obvious things happening so that he knows when to start pointing and shouting, and But I mean, it's really problematic for a lot of other people, when you hear a really awesome song in a movie, and you're like, I will download or buy that later, and then you hear it later, and well, I mean, I did that. Like, oh God, what soundtrack was it I bought? I can't even remember what soundtrack I bought now. And like, because I had heard all this music and it was really awesome, and then I couldn't use any of it for the game. It was useless to me. I mean, I could put it in my CD player and listen to it, and it was great. But when I tried to use it for the game, I was just like, just so ungood. I think it might have been the Gladiator soundtrack.
I think it bears noting that a video game soundtrack, depending on the feel you're going for, there's a game out there for what you want. Mm-hmm. And if you have a video game soundtrack, you generally get a lot of songs for there. So they generally have anywhere from like 1 to 4 discs, depending on the game. It's a wealth of music that you can just sort of listen to. Maybe if you're lucky while you're at work, or maybe as you're working on your game or whatever, and you can generally get a lot from those.
Yeah,
well, OC Remix also allows you to amp up your video game.
That's true.
Music.
They specifically remix video game music, and they have I think over 2,000 songs now with a ridiculously wide variety of moods and feelings to them, and
Yeah, we could definitely include a link of some kind to that for people who aren't
yeah,
familiar
sure.
with
Yeah.
Overclock Remix.
They're fantastic.
Very
they do a lot of good work and a lot of really, unique and interesting music on OC Remix.
Just because I like to promote them, we always every year go to Otakon in Baltimore, which is an anime convention, and we always go to their panel.
Yeah, it's been a good
because
time every
It's fantastic.
Those guys are pretty tight.
And since you mentioned anime soundtracks are also pretty good, I mean,
Oh, yep.
they're sort of along the same lines as movie soundtracks, but maybe a little more accessible.
I'd say they're kind of a good balance. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the video game. If the anime has even one season, it's probably going to have a couple discs of music,
And
maybe more.
Songs tend to be a little more general just because they have several episodes over which to play them, so they can't be too specific.
Right.
But yeah, it's sort of a similar feel.
In a similar vein, like Jeff mentioned, a Chevelle CD with a lot of really cool, actiony music, and in a certain game, like a more modern setting, I feel that like more modern bands, like rock bands or metal bands or anything along those lines, they can really work, for your specific type of game. If you want an action song, the lyrics just tend to blend in when you're actually playing.
Incidentally, the screamier the lyrics are, the less they're likely to distract from what you're talking
Yeah,
about. But
for sure.
Yeah.
Something that's easy to sing along with, like as much as I love Huey Lewis in my game, I don't know if I could ever play while Ed's there because he will sing along with every freaking song and completely ruin it.
Well, on that note,
Or make it totally awesome.
one thing I like to do is grab music from obscure bands that I'm sure no one has heard of.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of bands from, I guess, the sort of Icelandic areas where they have. We don't speak anything other than English, so we don't know what they're saying, so the lyrics don't matter. It's just all music to us, and some of it sounds really cool. Anything foreign, anything that your gaming group can't understand the words, I find tends to be relatively effective.
The lyrics are just another instrument at that point. It's
exactly.
the same thing.
And soundtracks, again, are one of the strengths of them is that there rarely are many, if any, lyrics.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of instrumentality to work with and not a lot of instrumentation, I think is the word I meant to say. Yeah, and not a lot of like talking while you're trying to talk.
I've been having an instrumentality throughout this entire conversation.
Anyway, yeah, so what are like a few specific like soundtracks?
I mean, Conan is a popular
CDs
one
that
because Conan
you
is
like?
awesome. It's got a perfect feel for most fantasy
Yes.
role-playing
Our
games.
oft spoken of companion Sean is a Conan fan, and
The
he
Conan fanatic.
loves the soundtrack as well, and it is actually pretty good music.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love, I guess, Chaos Legion.
Oh, that's a video game soundtrack.
Video game.
Not a good game, but a really spectacular soundtrack, I have to say.
I've never played the game.
No one that I've
but
ever heard of
the
that played it
soundtrack
like that.
is fantastic, and that's just one of the go-tos. So is
Like Unlimited Saga is a video game soundtrack that I use for basically anytime I need something that's weird or unusual, I'll be like, let's put in Unlimited Saga and see if I can find anything off there.
Yeah, video game-wise, I mentioned Shadow of the Colossus earlier, but it really is, like, in my opinion, one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard of for a D&D game particularly. It's like, a lot of the music is, I don't want to say it particularly invokes, like, a fantasy feel, but it's very good instrumentation for, like, heroic action. There's a lot of, like, horns and noisy sort of percussive sounds. Very good. I mean, solidly written music. Tons of battle songs.
I guess that when I think about it, I guess I'm sort of thinking of my go-to ones. Like I ran a mage game where I put a lot of Code Geass music into there. I thought that was a really, really cool soundtrack for that. Also, like any of the Sakamoto stuff is go-to stuff, like all Dragon Quarter, Final Fantasy Tactics, stuff like that.
You mentioned Silent Hill. That's
Silent
if you're
Hill.
running a
Yeah.
horror or creepy session or game, that's probably that should be like on your playlist, no doubt. Silent Hill 3 and 2,
Resident Evil.
Yep, those are really great soundtracks.
I think stuff that that we kind of got away from because it's probably been overdone is like a lot of the old Xenogears,
Final Fantasy
Creed,
VII.
or Xenosaga stuff. But Xenosaga is hopefully bringing it back.
Well, that's really good flavor for a sci-fi game if you have
Yeah.
one.
Well, also Tsubasa is basically Xenosaga again.
Yep.
Same person, so.
And, like classic soundtracks like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, still fantastic soundtracks with a wealth of music.
Pretty much anything from Yuki Kojura.
Anything from her is generally
fantastic.
epic and amazing. Yeah.
And a lot of the
And yes,
soundtracks
Naru
for
Mitsuda, but it's-
games that are older, you can find like orchestrated versions or even like versions that are like done by contemporary like rock band style
Speaking of which,
setups.
OC Remix did do a remix album for Final Fantasy VII, which I think was 4 discs.
Huh.
It was an enormous and
4
really
discs.
spectacular music all around.
It really was.
And I mean, they've done, they did Xenogears also, which is really well done.
Donkey Kong Country 2.
Another really good soundtrack.
This is really good.
I guess strange sort of foreign metal bands that have sort of done like a Eloviete or whatever they're called.
I have no idea how to
We
pronounce
should write that in the show notes so that
we
people can
will.
have a clue how to.
They've got some crazy.
it. It's good stuff.
It's like a Celtic metal. Yeah, Leaves Eyes.
I started listening to their
kind of
stuff.
like a Celtic, not
Leaves
as hard
Us is
metal.
really good.
They're really cool.
Jeff also, he's being a little modest, but he does play a lot of Enya in his games.
Back in the day, Enya and Power Symphony were like go-to bands for Jeff for a while.
Enya's my girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Sigur Rós for it, but
He's actually known for making a lot of really ambient, mood-setting music.
Oh
Yes.
God, Ghosts!
Yeah,
I
Nine Inch
totally
Nails
forgot about
made
Ghosts.
some really,
Ghosts is
really good
perfect. It's so they have a song for everything.
they,
I mean, it's just Trent Reznor, but
It's
I mean-
just Ghost is actually this is sort of a little off topic, but Nine Inch Nails made a collection of 4 CDs or 2 CDs called Ghosts 1 through
1
4.
through 4.
It's 2 CDs, I think. And
Yep.
I listen to those when I'm preparing a game, like when I'm just trying to be creative. They're really good, just like background noise for when you want to be thinking about stuff. And I listen to that when I'm just working on my game and not needing the music for anything. And then I'll also use it for my game sometimes, but still, just as a mood setter for creativity, Ghost is a really great soundtrack.
Now, if you're looking to find new music, I mean, you don't. Obviously, these are some suggestions, but one thing you can do is check out the new games that are coming out, check out the new movies that are coming out, search for the kind of music you want on like a YouTube playlist. You can find, pay attention to the bands, listen to Pandora.
I mean,
And if you
I
guys
mean,
have any ideas, we
dead,
would love to hear, just post on our blog,
Oh,
send
yeah.
us emails.
Music that you've liked.
The more stuff you
Ideas
can
that
send
you
us,
had.
the better, because we're always looking for new stuff. We'll share some stuff that our viewers send in, and also Jeff really needs some new stuff. for
Yeah,
his game.
absolutely.
I would love to, get some new music.
is IMEM actually dead?
MySpace bought it, and they maybe have transferred some accounts, but it's
Okay.
not the same and never will be.
Okay.
Well, anywho,
I just found some stuff on there like probably half a year ago, or maybe
oh,
it might have even been a year ago.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
oh
buddy.
no, it was sad.
I'm not that sorry.
All right, well, thank you for listening. We are really looking forward to getting some feedback from all of you. So visit our website, houserule.com. We're going to have some forums that you can post, and if not, you can email us at podcast@houserule.com.
Email us.
Yeah, and our
Right away.
our music is all from ocremix.org, and you'll be able to find the specifics of the music we used in this podcast, and also a link to OC Remix on our website, houserule.com.
So enjoy.